Hi guys, let's have a discussion on today's set of questions. As usual, I would recommend that you write down, write as much as you can. So this is about India's national literacy rate. According to a recent report based on a National Statistical Office survey, the overall literacy rate in the country is about 77.7. So more than 3 out of 4 individuals in India are literate. That is, they can read, write, and understand what they are written. So basically, the simple definition of who is a literate person is someone who is age 7 and above, is able to read, write, and understand. Now this could be any language of their choice. Typically it's a mother tongue. Okay, so the national literacy rate is 77.7%, which is quite high, higher than what it was in 2006-11. Now I'm not going to confuse you about by comparing these numbers, the latest numbers with the past numbers. The past numbers you have access to. I'm going to give you the latest numbers. Okay, so this is as you can see, this is the latest number. Okay, this is the latest number, and what are state wise. The top would be Kerala. Kerala, you could write this. 96.2% of Kerala is literate. 96.2. Then we have Delhi. Okay, now Delhi is slightly over 80s, you could say under 89, slightly under 89. So the top two, and then we have Uttarakhand, which is like 70, yeah, it's slightly about 10 percentage points more than the national average. So these are the top 3 in India in terms of literacy rate. Kerala has over 96.2%, Delhi is down at 89, Uttarakhand, not United Kingdom, is 87.6. Now I want you to look at the lowest also. Okay, we as a country aren't doing great with regard to certain states, like for example Rajasthan. It is slightly under 70, 69.7. Bihar, then comes Bihar. Bihar is done reasonably well in the last decade, so 70.9. And then the third is the state I live in, which is quite sad to see, 72.8. So Rajasthan, Bihar, and Telangana state. TS is Telangana state. That's how we here write. In fact, all our vehicles, the H in vehicle is silent. Okay, all our vehicles sport a number plate that goes like TS. TS is Telangana state. Okay, so it's just one name, Telangana. So it's one name. So that's how we have gone with, basically what we have gone with. Now literacy is pretty important, as you know. Most of us know why literacy is important, because it helps people gain skill, and that we are talking of not the skill that comes from family professions or something that we learn through our hard work. We are talking of skill through education, which is of course hard work, but here we are talking of literacy rate building. It's an inbuilt thing that someone who has had access to literacy would have had some access to education. Now education brings learning brings skill brings employment. So if I would not have skill, I would not have access to employment. If I would not have employment, then I would not have access to a good quality of life. A good salary, which brings in a lot of other things, as you would know what a good salary brings in. So it is important that people are literate, people are skilled, so that they can read, write, and all, understand all that stuff. So this is this is quite latest. In fact, this came out in the first week of September, if I'm not wrong. So that's a little about this. Now this is a little about literacy rates in India. Which of the following options is an instrument of qualitative control of money supply, quantitative control of money supply of the RBI? The key word is quantitative, which is about quantity, how much money supply. So all of the above. So we are going to discuss what is CRR, what is SLR, what are open market operations, and bank rate. Okay, let me first give you a definition of bank rate. Please write bank rate. Bank rate, you could write rate of interest, charged by charged see charged by the RBI on long-term loans. Long-term loans is basically more than 1 year, more than 1 year. Okay, long-term loans to commercial banks, So it's an interest rate that is charged by the RBI on long-term loans to commercial banks. Okay, what's not mentioned here is, okay, some other time we will discuss repo, reverse repo and everything. Let's stick to our simple things. You could write this: open market operations. Right. Refers to, first point, refers to purchase and sale of government bonds by the RBI. Okay, next point. OMOs, this is in shortcut. When you write, you should always write like this: OM with the small s. Okay, you should not put an apostrophe here. This apostrophe is bad. OMOs, small s indicates plural. OMOs are aimed at controlling the supply of money in the market. Market is economy. Okay, next point. RBI sells government bonds through public sector banks to decrease the supply of money, supply in the market, sells through public sector banks. Not hey guys, I am so sorry, it should be public sector banks, not PSUs, PSBs. Sells through public sector banks to decrease the money supply in the market. Next next point. So we will just stick to something very simple. Again, RBI buys government bonds. Through public sector banks. So it buys back from the public. Okay, through public sector banks to increase the supply of money, in the market, Now see, this is primarily done if the government needs money. It tells the RBI, look, this is what we should do. We can control inflation, everything through this. But typically the RBI doesn't do this for the government. It does it for its own sake. But that RBI does only to control inflation. But when the government needs money, it sells bonds through the RBI. This is also called open market operations. So ultimately what happens is, if the RBI, when the RBI sells bonds, what is happening is, let's say I buy, RBI is selling. What would I do? I would buy. When I buy, my money goes into the RBI's hands. When my money goes into the RBI's hands, the supply of money goes down. Okay, this way liquidity is sucked out of the system into the RBI's hands. So this way inflation could be controlled. This way inflation could be controlled. This is a very, very important way of controlling inflation. So apart from this, of course, there is something called, you write this, cash reserve ratio. This is important. Cash reserve ratio. Simple definition. All commercial banks must keep a certain percentage of their total time and demand liabilities, in brackets deposits, All commercial banks must keep a certain percentage of the total time and demand liabilities with the RBI. Full stop. The current CRR is 3%. See, we have used the word liabilities. What does it mean? Simply deposit. When you go to a bank, you put money into a bank. Okay, you put money, you deposit cash in your account. What is it that's happening? You're depositing. But while it's an asset to you, for the bank it's a liability, udhar. So the bank has to return that money to you, isn't it? So it's a liability for the bank. It's an asset to you, but for the bank it's a liability. We call it a deposit, the bank calls it a liability. So we can use this word liability and deposit together. Account, deposit, liability are all one and the same. Now what does it say? Time and demand liability, isn't it? So a bank has two kinds of accounts. Let me explain this. A bank has two major kinds of accounts, time account and demand account. See, a time account is one into which if you put money, you can withdraw it only after a fixed period of time. A good example would be fixed deposit. Okay, RD, recurring deposit, is another good example. So these time accounts are also called term accounts. Now a demand account is one into which when you put money, you can withdraw on demand. That is, if you have money in your account, you can tell the banker, pay back my money. Okay, so good examples would be savings account and current account. Okay, now what the RBI definition says is that what the CRR definition says is that a percentage of this money, total deposits, has to be kept with the RBI. What is the current rate? 3%. Now what would happen if this is increased or decreased? If CRR is increased, let's say we put it here 3%. If it's increased by 0.25%, what will happen? It means that commercial banks will have to keep more money with the RBI. More money with the RBI would mean less money with the bank. So money supply will decrease. When money supply decreases, what happens to the interest rates? Interest rates increase. Okay. On the other side, if the CRR is decreased by 0.25%, same percentage, what will happen? It would mean that banks have to keep less money with the RBI. So the RBI will release money into the hands of the banks. So money supply will increase. As money supply increases, interest rates, decrease. There is more money in the market. So banks will try to attract customer, and the best way to attract customer is to offer a lower rate of interest. The burden should go down. So, this is what is happening now. The CRR is at 3%. It used to be at 4.25% till about 2 years back. So it's over the last few years, last few weeks, months, it has gone down, which only has meant that money supply has increased. As money supply has increased, interest rates have gone down. Now, why will the RBI do this? Why will the RBI do this? Well, it does it primarily to stimulate growth. Stimulate growth. You look at that. If interest rates are high, there would be high on both deposits and loans. So, as an individual, what would you do if interest rates are high? Would you save or spend? Obviously, you would, commonsensically speaking, you would save, because when you save money in a, you earn more interest. You put money in an FD, you earn more interest. But on the contrary, if you want to borrow, interest rates on loans are higher. When interest rates are higher, the burden also increases. So you try to postpone your expenditure. You got it? So higher interest rates discourage, borrowing. On the other side, when interest rates are low, we tend to borrow and we tend to spend. That's the idea. Because when interest rates are low on fixed deposits and everything, you also think, I will earn only about, let's say, 5% in the bank. I may as well spend this on gold or, do something else, which would mean that, over a longer period, I would earn more. Okay. People also tend to borrow to buy assets like homes, cars, and all that stuff, which also means that you're creating demand for what goes into a home. That is, cement, concrete, electrical stuff, cabling, all the stuff that goes into a home. So you're creating demand. And as you know, these are all capital intensive industries. As capital intensive industries, more capital will be required to bring in more capital. Business persons, industrialists, they borrow money from banks, which means that overall you're creating demand for goods and services. So when you borrow, when an industrialist borrows money from a bank, what does he do? He tries to invest in business, because he wants to make more money, from that money. So he invests in business. So let's say there is a manufacturing plant. He employs people. When he employs people, he is putting money into the hands of people, isn't it? By way of income. So when people have income, through employment generation, they also have, purchasing power. When they have purchasing power, their demand for goods and services also increases. So it's a cyclical thing. This is a terrific thing. This is what is happening now. But unfortunately, things generally aren't taking off, because overall there is a lot of fear in the market. There is a lot of uncertainty in the market. Okay, there are a lot of issues like the COVID pandemic. There is something to do with something to do with the China border issue, India-China border issue, the fact that there is a moratorium, extended moratorium on banks, loans and everything also means that banks will be that much more careful in lending money. Okay, so overall things aren't looking up for us in India. So that is cash reserve ratio, and this is statutory liquidity ratio. You could write this definition now, SLR, write this. All commercial banks, pretty much the same definition. All commercial banks must keep a certain percentage of their total time and demand deposits, liabilities, of their total time and demand liabilities in the form of highly liquid assets, like gold and government bonds, Full stop. The main objective of SLR is to avoid, write this in single inverted comma, a run on the bank. Avoid a run on the bank Okay, in brackets, panic withdrawals, PANIC withdrawals, panic withdrawals. So what does this mean? Okay, one more thing. The current SLR is 18%. 18%. So the government says, the RBI says, banks don't have to keep, SLR with us. No. You keep only CRR with us. 3% is fine with us. But 18% of whatever you collected from the public has to be kept in the form of gold and government bonds. See, these are highly liquid assets. They can be exchanged for cash anytime, isn't it? Now, what's the objective of SLR? To avoid a run on the bank. That is what we have written, isn't it? See, run on the bank is a phrase that comes from old banking system. When there was this, let's say, there was a rumor that X bank is failing. It's going to close. It's going to close. So if it's going to close and I have put my money there, I have put my money, I have deposited some money there, it means that I may lose that money if the bank closes, it goes bankrupt. So what I would do is I would run to the bank to withdraw my money. And there will be thousands of people like me who would run to the bank. It's called run of the banks. Running all over the bank means, going like a mob and asking for withdrawals. So when a bank would have that kind of a situation, when thousands of a majority of customers come and say, give back my money, bank wouldn't have cash immediate, for immediate disbursement, because most of its cash is lent. Like for example, every 100 rupees, about 35 rupees go into administrative expenses, like salaries, establishment charges, or pensions and all that. Apart from which, it has to take care of interest on depositors' money, isn't it? And 3% CRR, 18% SLR, so 21% there, CRR plus SLR plus, expenses. So a bank would hardly lend about 30 to 40% of its money, overall money to people. That's it. It doesn't lend more than that. So that is why the interest rates are higher. Interest rates on loans are higher than what they pay depositors. If they pay depositors 7%, the loan interest rate would be about, let's say, 12%. So a difference of 5% goes to take care of a lot of things. Expenses towards salaries, pensions, establishment, a lot of other things as well. Little profit also. But overall, SLR is primarily done for this. So RBI says, put some money aside. If there is something wrong, you could be things could be taken care of. See, this held good when there was, let's say small bank, and when you had ATMs only for that bank. Let's say ICICI Bank, ATM could be used only by ICICI customers. Now you could go to any ATM and withdraw your money, isn't it? So this kind of a situation of avoiding a run on the bank doesn't really hold good. Okay, but the system is still there and working very, very well. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you all these things, and little more I can tell you something about repo rate, just definitions, not explanation. Repo rate, REPO, repo rate, okay, repo rate, repo, right, rate of interest charged by, rate of interest charged by, rate of interest charged by the RBI on short-term loans, to commercial banks, The current repo rate is 4%. 4%. Last one, last definition we should write is reverse repo. Reverse repo. Reverse repo. Now, this is I think by now you would have guessed that this is the opposite of repo rate. Repo rate is where the RBI charges interest on loans made by it to commercial banks. Now, this is the reverse. Right. Rate of interest charged by commercial banks on short-term loans to the RBI, on short-term loans to the RBI. Okay. The current reverse repo rate is 3.35%. 3.35%. So I gave you for CRR is 3%, this is 18% SLR, open market operations don't have. Yeah, bank rate I think we did not take any number, this is 4.25%. Bank rate. So that's a lot that we have discussed. Okay guys. Which country is the biggest destination for Indian exports in 2019-20? US. India's biggest export market was US. I'm going to give you some notes on this. I want you to write this very carefully. So what we will do is we will write I'll just tell you the columns, 3 columns they should be. Country, okay, country, total trade, and total exports. If you know these two, you can know 2 more things. One, the imports. Yeah, you can know the total imports, and then you can know the total. Once you know the total imports, you can also exports minus imports is trade balance, which could be trade surplus or trade deficit. Okay, 2 are enough basically. So all figures, you could write all figures in U.S. billion dollar, American dollars, okay, billion dollars, all figures in this. So US 88.9, 53.0. So total two-way trade between India and the US was about $89 billion, of which we ran a trade surplus, $53 billion. I mean, total exports were 53, so the imports would be lower, imports would be much lower. But this is the reason why Donald Trump is not happy with India. He says that India is taking advantage of a lot of benefits that the US extends to the developing countries. So some other day we will discuss that. Next, China, total trade 81.8 total exports 16.7. We can write one more, my friends, just one more, not more than that. UAE, United Arab Emirates, third one. This is 59.1. 59.1, and we export about $28.9 billion worth of stuff to UAE, which re-exports that. Yeah, 28.9. Okay, so what was India's total trade? India's total trade was $788.8 billion. You can write 788 is enough. Yeah, why this 788? Our exports were much lower than our imports, because we are not an export powerhouse. Our exports were about $313 billion. So exports total trade. So you can now know the imports. So 400 and my math is bad, please correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. $475 billion were our imports last year. All these figures are, my friends, for this financial year. This year's trade is going to suffer a lot because of what has happened, because, world over, especially including in India. Okay, so that's a little about these countries, my friends. I just wanted you to know these things. You don't have to remember all the numbers, but it's good to know that the US is India's biggest trade partner. Okay, followed by China, our major rival, and in the third place is our friend the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Okay, so that's it, guys. चलिए आगे चलते हैं. Which of the following brands has occupied the top position in the list of the world's best brands 2020 released by Forbes magazine? Apple. The value of the brand is $241 billion. I was going through the list. $241 billion is the value of the brand. So don't write the number. Just know that it's 241. And we can write the names of the CEOs if you want. Head offices you don't require. For SSC and other bank and other kinds of exams that you could be sitting for. This is run by Tim Cook. Apple's CEO is Tim Cook. This is Sundar Rajan Pichai. Microsoft Satyanarayan Nadella is okay. Amazon Jeff Bezos. Facebook, one of the co-founders, Mark Zuckerberg. He's a co-founder. He's pretty young, just under 35. He can speak classical Greek, Hebrew, Chinese, English, of course. Pretty bright chap, very, very bright chap. But you look at this, last 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, all have professional. In fact, 3, 4, 5 have professional CEOs. They grew up with the companies. Okay, Satya had been working with Microsoft since 1992. This guy is he studied for his BTech at Manipal Institute of Technology, Karnataka. He did his, of course, MS in computer science from the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and then he also studied for his MBA at the Booth School of Business in Chicago. This is generally ranked the world's best MBA college. Booth, BOOTH, Booth School of Business. Okay, so pretty hardworking chaps, extremely hardworking. So. This is how hardworking I can tell you. See, under Satya, the company's market cap, which is the market value for all the shares of the company, has increased by 5 times, 500%. Yeah. So it was worth about $300 billion, and now it's about $1.55 trillion. Huge difference. And Sundarajan Pichai was first made the CEO of Google. Now he is also the CEO of the parent company of Google called Alphabet. Alphabet. These are the first two letters of the Greek alphabet, alpha and beta. So Alphabet is alpha beta. Okay. Which are the world's first top 5 brands? You would write this also. I think it's in the reverse order in which these are mentioned. The number 1 is Apple, number 2 is Google, number 3 is Microsoft, number 4 is Amazon, number 5 is Facebook. Reverse order. Okay? Top 5 brands in the world. Which of the following, from here the questions will be like touch and go. Okay? Which of the following banks has launched InstaClick savings account? Bank of Baroda. Bank of Baroda. Bank of Baroda is run by the CEO, if I'm not wrong, is the chairman is Hasmukh Adhia. or you can write the CEO's name now, Sanjeev. Sanjeev Chadda, I think. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself, my friends. Okay. Bank of Baroda. Then SBI, the new CEO by the time, is new chairman is Dinesh Khara. Old one, as you know, is Rajneesh, what's his name? Rajneesh Kumar, who is going out. Punjab National Bank, SS Mallikarjuna Rao, or SS Mallikarjuna. Bank of Baroda is Atanu Kumar Das. Atanu Kumar Das. Atanu Kumar Das. Okay. HDFC has a new CEO from October 26. He'll be the new CEO. The guy's name is Sashi Jagdishan. Sashi Jagdishan. Sashi Jagdishan. Okay. So, yeah. Hey, I'm not very certain about this guy. Yeah. Okay. The chairman is Hasmukh Adia, but Sanjeev Chadda or Sanjeev, I always get confused about these names, especially this name, not all the names. Other names are pretty familiar with. Chaliye. With which all the following institutes is Maruti Suzuki India entered into a partnership to help the early stage startups in becoming large scale business. I am Bangalore. There are 20 IIMs, okay, 21 actually, but you look at this. IIT Bombay, not Mumbai, it's still called IIT Bombay, IIT Madras. I am Bangalore. This is Asian, those of you not very familiar, Asian Institute of Management in a place called Manila, which is the capital of Philippines. So IISc Bangalore, this was more or less started by the great J.R.D. Tata. Okay, so I just want to tell you about this. Maruti Suzuki, okay, Maruti Suzuki India. So this was started by the government of India in the early 90s. The plan came in the late 1970s, and production started in early 1980s. Okay, this was started as Maruti Udyog Limited. Can I name Maruti Udyog Limited? When you hear this name is Maruti Udyog Limited, oh, it sounds like some Kirana shop, but that is the government of India company, Maruti Udyog Limited. So the technical collaboration was with Suzuki Corporation of Japan. Over a period of time, slowly the government of India sold its shares, divested, and Suzuki had the first right. So they kept buying, and today Suzuki owns Maruti Suzuki India. It is no longer a government company. And you should know that it is named after Bhagwan Hanuman, Maruti. It's named after Bhagwan Hanuman. Okay. The Central Board of Trustees of the Employees Provident Fund Organization has approved the payout of about 8.5% interest to its subscribers for last year. And this is a very important way of pleasing people because see, if this goes down, people feel unhappy. It goes down to 8.25%, sometimes 8% and all. So subscribers, government employees, people who are putting money here, they feel bad. But the government also has to pay this. Now, where will it generate revenue from? That's also important. And all these money is typically kept in government's, what is it called? Trust. Government's trust. National savings accounts, post office savings accounts, these are all kept in government's trust. So these are called public accounts. They are all kept in government trust. The government uses money and pays back whenever it becomes due. Which of the following has become the first Indian company to cross $200 billion in market capitalization? I'll give you a simple definition of market capitalization. Please write this. In short, it's called market MCAP. Okay, आप काफ़ी जगह में, many places you will find this definition, is this equation. Number of outstanding shares, or some people call this issued shares. Number of outstanding shares multiplied by market price of each share. Each share, ठीक है? Let's say a company has issued 1 lakh shares. It has issued 1 lakh shares, and the market price of each share is 50 rupees. So what is the market cap? 50 lakhs. Got it? Now, the market capitalization of Reliance Industries is about today. When you say more than $200 billion, it's about, you can say that it's 73 rupees, so about 15 lakh crore rupees. Got it, guys? The value of all the shares of Reliance Industries is how much? 15 lakh crore rupees. That's it, crore rupees. And Mukesh Ambani, let's say, owns about 44% of this company. So if 15 lakh crore is for 100%, okay, what is it for 44%? So you can know the value of his shares, the price, the value, market value of his shareholding. That's how it is. Got it? So this is a very, very big thing. So you have companies like TCS, which has huge market capitalization. Okay, TCS and Reliance Industries are among the biggest companies by way of market capitalization. Fair? So that's the definition. Number of outstanding shares multiplied by market price. There is another definition which talks of only those shares which are available for trading. That's called free float methodology. For now, not required. Just stick to this. Number of outstanding shares multiplied by market price, you get market cap. Okay. Let's look at the CEOs of these companies. The CEOs of these companies are, if you look at TVS Group, Venu Srinivasan. Venu, and I write with stress, it's clear. Venu Srinivasan. And L&T, it is Subramanian. Okay, you can write N Subramanian, that's enough. Then Aditya Birla Group. Aditya Birla Group is Kumar Mangalam Birla. Kumar Mangalam Birla. So TVS company, the TVS Group, they own a large scale, what do you say? It's a huge motor, automobile group. L&T owns, it is India's largest engineering firm, and it also owns one IT company called Mindtree. What is the company called? Mindtree. This is the IT company that L&T owns. Okay. Reliance Industries. Okay. Aditya Birla is a highly diversified group. It owns a lot of businesses. It's into, for example, if you look at apparel tech, it's Madura Garments. There is a company called Madura Garments which owns brands like Louis Philippe, Peter England, Alan Solly. Yeah. It owns one more, Van Heusen. Then if you look at Ultratech Cement, Ultratech Cement is owned by them. They are a partner in Vodafone Idea. It's the biggest maker of carbon black, basically, which is an industrial equipment thing. So it's a huge group, highly diversified group. And Kumar Mangalam Birla is an MBA from London Business School. He is also a chartered accountant. Okay. Coming to Reliance Industries, this is Mukesh Ambani, run by Mukesh Ambani. Mukesh Dheeraj Lal, Ambani. His father's name was Dheeraj Lal Hirachand Ambani. People call him Dhirubhai Ambani. This is Tata Group. Tata Group is, the chairman is Natarajan Chandrasekharan. Natarajan Chandrasekhar. Okay. So this Tata Group owns companies. Many people don't know that it has its ownership of companies like you must be familiar with the company called Indian Hotels Company Limited. If you're not, then it owns brands like Taj, Vivanta. It owns what is called Selections Q. Okay, Selections. Then it owns Ginger Hotels are budget hotels. Okay, so this is then it owns Voltas, it owns Radis. Lot of companies that don't have Tata as part of the name, like Tata Motors, Tata Steel, like this. Okay. The initial public offering, IPO is initial public offering. The first public issue of a company's shares is called IPO. The IPO of the IT services firm Happiest Minds Technologies was subscribed, more than what we say 130 times. The founder of Happiest Minds Technologies is Ashok Soota. See this guy. This, and these three. They came out of this company called Wipro. They came out of Wipro. Okay. And they together started this company. Three of them started this company called Mindtree. They started Mindtree. So from Wipro they came out. They started Mindtree, and Soota and Natarajan Bagchi, they all fell out. They didn't have very good, I think they had a dispute, and Soota started Happiest Minds. Okay, so as of today, Krishna Kumar Natarajan is more or less retired. Subrata Bagchi is also retired. Nandan Nilekani is non-executive chairman. Non-executive chairman of Infosys. He's a co-founder. He's a co-founder of Infosys. Non-executive chairman of Infosys. Anjan Lahiri, he's just left this company, Birla Soft. He is no longer the CEO. He's just left the company. Okay. Which of the following teams won the 2020 Caribbean Premier League cricket title? Trinbago Knight Riders. See, Caribbean, I could have had a map. Maybe in the next class I'll bring to you a map and share with you what is West Indies and everything. But, when you're talking of Caribbean, these are all West Indian countries, and there is this country called Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? Trinbago. You got it? That's how the name comes. These are separate islands, but it's one country. So they won the tournament, and I think they defeated Saint Lucia. If I'm not wrong, they defeated Saint Lucia. So I'm not going to discuss cricket now. Okay. Which bank has recently named Jane Fraser as its next CEO, making her the first woman to lead a major Wall Street bank? See, Wall Street is the name of a street in New York City. Okay. This is where you find the head offices of a large number of major banks, major financial companies. Okay. The wall here relates to a wall that was built by the Dutch people who lived in this area to protect themselves from the British. Okay. This is, I'm talking of the 17th century. I'm talking quite 17th century. So the wall was built by the Dutch to protect themselves against an invasion by the British. So they built the wall, but unfortunately the wall couldn't save them. So this still remains, the wall still, it's not exactly a wall now, the street. Fair? So You see, when the Dutch settled in this area, what today is New York City, it was called New Amsterdam. The old name of New York City is New Amsterdam. You know, Dutch means Netherlands, the people of Netherlands, and the capital of Netherlands it's Amsterdam, isn't it? So when they came here from Europe, from their country, they settled here. They named this area New Amsterdam. But today it's called New York because the British named it New York. York, they named it after the Duke of York. I love history very much, though I don't want to tell you all that stuff. Just touch and go. Okay? This is a padavi, this is a position in Britain. The Duke of York. So it's named after that person, that position. In any case, who are the CEOs of these companies? Jane Fraser would be Citigroup's new CEO. Who is the current CEO? Michael Corbett. The current CEO of Citigroup. It's a huge company. Citigroup is like what? It's a $75 billion company, just to give you a scale. You know SBI, State Bank of India, its turnover last year was under $12 billion. Okay? You look at that, Citigroup, $75 billion. The biggest would be JP Morgan, I think, in these things. It's about $115 billion. ये बहुत बड़ी बैंकें हैं, छोटी दाम इनका कुछ, there is no scale to them. They run the world. Literally, they run the world. Okay? JP Morgan Chase is the CEO is a very, very famous man called Jamie Dimon. You can also say Diamond. Goldman Sachs is a major investment banking firm. It's also a commercial bank now. David Solomon. He's a DJ, disc jockey. Oh man, these guys they have varied interest. When you read about them, you wonder how many hours do they pack into a 24-hour day. Crazy. Then what? Hey, we have Morgan Stanley also. I think it's James Gorman. You could write this. James, I'll just clear this entire thing. Yeah, James Gorman. For Morgan Stanley, a huge bank. Okay. Credit Suisse is a Switzerland-based bank. Its CEO is a guy called Thomas Gottstein. Okay. The Union government has recently constituted a 3-member expert committee to assist in the assessment of relief to bank borrowers. The committee will be chaired by former CAG, Rajiv Maharshi, the guy who just left the office. Okay, Rajiv Maharshi. And the current CAG is the current. Okay, we'll just write the name of the current guy. See, this is the ex-CAG. Okay, so we'll just write the current CAG's name. Girish Chandra Murmu, ex-Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. Just Girish Chandra Murmu is the current CAG. Okay. Rajiv Gauba is the current Cabinet Secretary. Cabinet Secretary of India. Union Cabinet Secretary. Ajay Bhushan Pandey is the Finance Secretary. Finance Secretary of India. Okay. World Suicide Prevention Day is observed on 10th September. It's an unfortunate thing. People take their own lives. For what reason? It's easy for people like us to say that suicide is covered as in all. Well, people have their own reasons, but I think the most important thing is to talk with people, others who you think could help you. There is nothing that we cannot overcome. It's always a sad thing that, to see people take their own lives. So, World Suicide Prevention Day is observed on 10th September to raise awareness. To raise awareness. Let's look at the choices. September 8th is International Literacy Day. International Literacy Day. International Literacy Day. September 14th is Hindi Divas. Hindi Divas. September 15th is, as you know, Engineers Day. Engineers, I normally put an S first and then an apostrophe, okay? Plural, Engineers Day. See, when you find an apostrophe after S, it means that there is another S. So, all engineers, unka is, belong to All Engineers Day. Okay? And this is Ozone Day, World Ozone Day. As you know, this is the birthday of, celebrated after the birthday of the great Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya, one of the builders of modern India, Bharat Ratna recipient. Who has recently been appointed chairperson of the National School of Drama by President Ramnath Kovind, Paresh Rawal. Paresh Rawal. He's pretty close to the BJP. He's a BJP guy actually. So is Anupam Kher, but excellent actors. They themselves are theatre actors. All of them, all 5 of them are theatre actors. They have enacted dramas and then they have come the cinema way. So in any case, I'm not going to discuss this. With which nation has India recently signed a key agreement named Acquisition Cross-Servicing Agreement for Reciprocal. Reciprocal is two-way. Provision of supplies and services between their defense forces. Japan. This is part of, there is an entity, a military alliance called Quad. India, which comprises India, US, Japan and Australia. Okay? Australia. So India, US, Japan and Australia, 4 countries. They have come together. The common enemy is China. Yeah, people are fed up with this country, China. Just to give you an idea, the president is Joko Widodo. Indonesia's president is Joko Widodo. Japan's new prime minister is Sugahide. In some places you'll find Suga like this. Don't worry. Okay. Moon Jae-in, South Korea. China, Xi Jinping. See, it all depends on what newspaper you consult. You see, for example, the spelling of Mao Zedong. This is the traditional spelling. Traditional according to whom? In some places you will find this spelling. Setung, Mao Tesung. Don't worry. That's why I say, Yuga Shiga Hide. Enough. Which state has launched the world's largest plasma therapy trial named Project Platina for COVID-19 patients? See, plasma is it comes from the blood. So it's actually, many people think it can do some wonders, especially in the case of critical patients. So it's used as a last resort. Okay, Maharashtra is doing this. And let's look at this, how effective or not effective is not our job to discuss. Maharashtra CM is Uddhav Thackeray. This is India's third largest state by area. Uddhav Thackeray. Telangana is K. Chandrasekhar Rao. Tamil Nadu E. Palaniswamy. Swami is also fine. Karnataka is B. Yedurappa. Okay. Haryana Manohar Lal Khattar. Okay guys, that's Song of India is a book authored by the great Ruskin Bond. Awesome writer. You should read Ruskin Bond. Terrific chap. He deeply loves India and he deeply loves his place, Uttarakhand. All his writings reflect that love of nature, people, and all that. So his most famous work, if I'm not wrong, is The Room on the Roof. Room on the Roof. The Room on the Roof. I have this book, The Room on the Roof. Jay Shankar is our foreign minister. Subramaniam Jay Shankar is our foreign minister. He is a writer of The India Way. The India Way. The India Way. Strategies for an uncertain world. For an uncertain world. You want me to write this out? No issue. For an uncertain world. Hussein Jedi is he writes great stuff on mafia and all that. You could write 6 decades of Mumbai Mafia. Yeah, I think that's a book he has written. 6 decades of the Mumbai Mafia. 6 decades of the Mumbai Mafia. The full title is From Dongri to Dubai. It's a chronicle of people like Arun Gavli, Dawood Ibrahim, and all that stuff. All those guys. Baldev Singh, Punjabi writer. He began his life as a truck driver and all that. People struggle, my friends, but they overcome everything. They don't give up. That's the best thing. They keep learning. They focus on building skill, building opportunities for themselves. Baldev Singh wrote this Sadak Nama. I haven't written, I haven't read any of these things like this particular thing, but someday I will. Stephen King, he is a master of horror. Okay, but I would suggest one film. Okay, the name of the film is also the name of the book on which the film was made. It's called The Green Mile. It's not a horror film, but you can watch this with your family. There is no horror. It's about the extraordinary skills someone has, the extraordinary healing abilities someone has. I mean, a very different kind of world. He is on a death row. He is about to be executed, but he has extraordinary healing capacities. Okay, he can heal people with dangerous illnesses. How? That's a story. Read The Green Mile. It stars Duncan and Tom Hanks, Michael Duncan and Tom Hanks. Banks usually sell their bad loans, non-performing assets to asset reconstruction companies. I think we discussed this in the past. Asset reconstruction companies, what they do is they buy these loans, okay, bad loans from banks. So if the loan is worth 100 rupees, ARC, asset reconstruction company, says, okay, we will buy it for 50 rupees. It buys for 50 rupees and it tries to recover that money from the person who borrowed the money. If they recover 70 rupees, they make a profit. If they are not able to recover in 50 rupees, they suffer a loss. So ultimately, banks don't keep their, banks get something. if I borrow and I don't intend to return to the bank any money, I borrowed 1,000 rupees, I don't intend to return 1,000 rupees, the banks won't recover anything from me. Okay, but if some ARC buys it, this loan for, let's say, 500 rupees, then it pays 500 rupees to the bank, but and you try to recover that 1,000 rupees from me. Even if, let's say, if I pay some 600 rupees to the ARC, ultimately they still make 100 rupees, an extra 100 rupees. Okay, so that is how they make profit. But generally in India things are bad right now, very bad. Who has become the first woman chief secretary of Punjab? Winnie Mahajan. The rest are, see, Smita Sabharwal is from Telangana IAS cadre, Poonam Malakonda AP. We'll not discuss this, but I just want to tell you, look at Aruna Sundararajan. Aruna Sundararajan is the Telecom Secretary of India. Telecom Secretary of India. She is also the chairperson of the Telecom Commission. Telecom Commission. According to the Economic Freedom of the World 2020 report, India has been ranked dash on the Global Economic Freedom Index. Our rank is 105, same as Brazil. We'll do one thing, we'll take the top 5 and then we'll take the BRICS rankings. Okay, so Hong Kong, you could write this title first, Global Economic Freedom Index 2020. Okay, 1 Hong Kong, 2 Singapore, 3 I think it's New Zealand, yeah, 4 Switzerland, 5 US. Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, yes, that's the order. Upar Hong Kong, which was Singapore, 3rd New Zealand. From there go to Europe, Switzerland, and then cross the Atlantic, US. See, whenever you write a rank number, let's say a rank, you have called it rank, country and all that. You should not put a dot here. When you put a dot here, it becomes a serial number. Okay? After rank, no dot. Yeah. BRICS. 5 countries, no? 105. South Africa is 90. China is 124, I think. And Russia is 89. Yeah, I think these are the numbers. Yeah. Right numbers, yeah, don't worry. Okay? They sound like, have I forgotten? No. Brazil's same as India, 105 on the index. There are a lot of parameters they use, tax regulations, transparency, the justice system, intellectual property rights, all that stuff. So Brazil and India have the same rank. Russia is the better one in this case, 89th rank on the index. China is the worst, at 124th, and South Africa follows Russia. Okay, so this is the index. World's freest would be Hong Kong and Singapore, but let's see if Hong Kong remains, because China has been doing a lot of weird things there. Okay. Oh, that's about it, guys. Thanks for being here. Have a lot of fun. Stay curious. Make sure you learn a lot of good things, my friends. Enjoy yourself. You could share your feedback on what we discussed in this session. If you would want me to discuss something more, you could bring that to us. Yeah, write an email to us. Leave feedback. It'll come to my colleagues will share that with me. Thanks for being here. Have a lot of fun.